Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Podcast Assemble, the show where you come for your regular geeky download. My name's Tommy, and I'm delighted, as always, to be joined by my friend and co-host from across the pond. It's a chopped DL.
Chopped.
Chopped.
Like, yeah.
You've had the chop, bro. It looks great.
Yeah, I'm finally, dude.
You literally look like a new man.
It'll look good for the day. The classic day after the haircut, you're like, yeah, this looks good. And then like
You don't know how to do it the way
then
that-
it's like, yeah, your barber would like put all this time in, and of course it looks good.
I feel like barbers fall into one of two camps, right? So they either just do the same thing to everybody, so they only have one style they can do, and if you ask them to do something different, they get confused and wild, or they put so much time in it looks great like yours
And
does
you
now.
just never can replicate
And you can never replicate
Yeah.
it. So it's like, I don't know, how does this work? What do I do?
That's true. I agree with that. I also like, I have to go to someone who can like do a scissor cut, which is like takes a lot of time to do because I have very straight
It looks
hair.
a little fadey on the sides, is it not?
Yeah, he did. He faded it, but like it was mostly like, he spent 95% of the time with
As opposed to what?
as opposed to like literally clippers 95% of the time.
Oh no, I hate that. That's
Yeah.
the worst.
people
you go
do,
to-
people
you go
do
to-
that.
You go to the same place as me, just in a different location, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go to your one. My guy, I'm not 100% sold on this.
I'll tell you. I mean, he's one dude. Yeah, we're chatting shit, but you can always do the time code thing and just go straight to the main.
There
main
will be time
topic,
codes
the
below. Yeah,
subtopics,
below.
all
That's
that
not a word.
stuff.
Yeah, so if you want to know where to jump around to, please do. Well, I thought we'd start this week before we jump into anything by announcing, drumroll please,
Oh, the winner.
the competition winner.
The winner.
So, for context, we have been running competition online. Welcome if you came from the competition. You had to tag your 5 geekiest friends. Welcome if you're one of the 5 geekiest friends. And it closed yesterday, I think, or Tuesday, whatever time we're on
time
now.
that we put on
We
the
did.
post.
We
Yes,
put on
there
the
was
post.
a deadline.
What we did was we had our social media guy, Lockie. Shout out to Lockie. We had him put all of the entrants into one of these randomizing majiggers online. So there is no bias, no nothing. We had nothing to do with it.
Really? We didn't just pick our favorite? I was down to do
We just
that.
picked your girlfriend.
I was down. I was going to say, Gail, you will not be winning this. I told her that many times. It's like, no matter what you do.
No, we
won't
put,
win.
we put them all into a randomizer.
We pulled her out.
We did it. Yeah. We did it down the line. And the winner is friend of the show, MCU Informer. So thank you very much, dude.
There you go.
We appreciate it.
MC Informer, who are you?
He's
an
that's
alias.
his handle.
He's an alias.
That's his
all
handle.
we needed.
So good.
Thank
Excellent.
you, mate.
Thank you for sharing with your 5 geekiest friends. We will hit you up on Instagram, I think it was. So we'll hit you up and get your prize over to you. There's also a couple of sneaky prizes in there as well. A couple of bonus prizes, which I'll be sending over to you also. And we'll give a couple of t-shirts away because we bought a ton of t-shirts for Podcast Assemble to a couple of runners-up. So we have those. We'll let you guys know.
They're flossy.
Yeah, they are. You like them?
I do.
It's the one I sent you.
It's a bit tight, but I'm
a
getting
little tight.
I need to hit the gym or
What
something.
size did I give you? The medium?
The medium.
We'll have to. Well, look, thank you all for entering the competition. We really do appreciate it. And we appreciate you sharing it with all your geeky friends too. What have you been up to this week, buddy?
You know, I didn't watch as much as I thought I had. But I did get into, it was like a lot of just, you know, Netflix has flexed and got Friends and Seinfeld on at the same time in Australia. In Australia for our Australia listeners. If you do it in America, I don't think they have it. But so I've been just kind of doing that, you know, putting those on every now and again.
Nice.
Then got another hour into The Green Mile, which is a 3-hour movie.
2/3 of the way in.
Long ass movie.
It's a real long
also,
movie.
like, did not expect, I mean, spoilers for this 1990s movie. I did not expect this to be a supernatural movie.
Wait, the supernatural?
The supernatural elements.
I thought it was just like...
It's a Stephen King book. I didn't even realize.
Oh, God, really?
Yeah.
I've seen that movie. How do I not know
That's
this?
so Gail said the same thing. She's like, I didn't realize this was this kind of movie. And I was like, me neither. And so far, it's honestly just kind of random.
Okay.
Like, it has no meaning into the story yet. So just every now and again, there's these random supernatural events that no one acknowledges. Like,
that's awesome.
Like the big.
Well, it's Halloween at the minute, so I'm just imagining like Michael Myers just popping out and stabbing.
No,
someone.
it's not even like that. It's like so it's like this death row, right? And it really does feel like it's gonna be this like classic death row prison story, like Shawshank style story.
Yeah, of course.
And randomly, one of the inmates who like you can tell is probably been falsely accused because of like racial prejudice.
Yep.
Like they built that up pretty well.
This
Just
is
like
the main character.
yeah, well, he's not even. I would say Tom Hanks so far has been the main character.
Okay.
I'm only 2 hours in of 3 hours. This could pivot.
Yeah, the main prisoner character.
Yeah, the main prisoner character. He just randomly like cures Tom Hanks' dick with, like, from like a UTI.
Oh, really?
Or his,
I didn't realize it was that.
Yeah, I don't know what he had, but he cures it.
Great.
A urinary tract infection, I think. And then he like
it's
heals this
Clark.
mouse.
I love it. Michael Clark Duncan. I love it.
And I'm not quite sure what the point is yet, because it randomly just happens. Anyway,
right.
It was a surprise.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, so does everyone apparently.
That's weird.
So
yeah, because I seem to remember like
he like breathes out these gnats.
Yeah, they're all at the end. They're like, why are we killing this guy? He seems to be a really good bloke. Yeah,
and then it was like this random. Well, I thought that's the way it was gonna go.
Yeah,
but I didn't realize they were just gonna throw random Stephen King weirdness into it, where he like sucks out the bad stuff and breathes out these gross gnats, and it's like, okay, well that was obviously Stephen King.
That is very Stephen King.
So random and gross.
He's really good at subverting expectations and reality.
He's really good at just like abstract
weirdness,
nasty shit. Anyway.
What else have you been up to, buddy?
That's honestly it. Seinfeld, Friends, The Green Mile, and then we obviously watched The Main Topic, which was epic.
We've been watching Friends for about 3 weeks now in the background. Just like it just sort of plays when when there's you kind of thinking of something to watch, or
that's sort of been for me. I was too lazy to like.
It's great.
Think about it.
Friends is so. I mean, it's problematic, like in hindsight, but for the time,
is
I
it?
love
What's?
There's a bunch of homophobic stuff in there, like. But I mean,
yeah, but like you can't judge everything by today's standards.
And it's really hard. It's really hard because I really love that show, and it's tough to.
And it's usually self-deprecating for Chandler. It's not like he's like it's
often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like I understand your point because it's still.
I've seen a bunch of memes about Ross and how he's the worst person of all time, and it's so true.
Yeah,
he's just a bad bloke.
He's kind of just like selfish, and a bit of selfish, and like self-absorbed. But he
goes around in circles. Like he doesn't want Rachel, then he wants her, and then
they were on a break.
We were on a break.
I also, you know what I did watch? I watched the Friends reunion, which was kind of weird.
Yeah, I liked that. What did you think?
I thought the old mate did a good job hosting.
Yeah, I did.
It'd be a hard job.
James Corden.
Yeah.
But did you not think Matthew Perry? I was so sad about Matthew Perry.
I mean, it's been a bad story for a long time. Yeah, to be honest,
real bad. And apparently, when I was watching it, I kept thinking like they're cutting parts of him out. You could tell. Like there was only one bit
he wasn't good, like because he was so space cadetty.
Yeah, as in you could tell they'd cut big sections of him out. I was like, oh,
I believe, because I mean he's like obviously got a drug addiction.
He's
obviously
got some serious problems.
A bit like out there because of it. Like he's just done so much that he's a bit of a space cadet. And I think also like the other people there, like obviously a lot of them kept in touch. It doesn't seem like he had.
We said exactly the same thing. It's so interesting.
It was intriguing, but
and it's interesting watching the show. Like he has drug and alcohol problems through the show.
Yeah, you just see his
interesting
weight fluctuate.
Him fluctuate. And we keep saying that. Like, I'll like step out, and I'll come back 2 episodes later, and I'll be like, Christ, he's fat again.
Yeah, it's wild. I agree.
I've done a fair amount this week. I've done bits of things this week outside of obviously watching Friends in the background.
Yeah,
we kind of wanted to carry on our sort of 90s revival on the weekend, and we started to watch Pulp Fiction, which. Fuck, that's a good movie, man.
It is. It really is.
But it's so long.
It's one of those movies when I start it, though, I have to finish it.
You say that.
I'm telling you, like, it's like that, The Departed. It's always these long ones, but, like, I will finish it. No matter what time.
Oh, you mean you'll come back to it?
No, I mean, like, I will in one sitting.
Oh, really? It's usually. A rewatchable for you?
Yeah.
Damn. Well, I wanted to. It is. But I had a bit of a crazy weekend, so I held off. I'll rewatch. I'll watch the second half later. But the other thing we decided to watch was. Have you ever watched An Interview with a Vampire?
No.
Me neither. And
is it on Netflix? It's a Netflix special?
No. It's an old movie. It's from like 93 or something. And it's Brad Pitt. It's Tom Cruise.
I've seen the thumbnail for it.
You will have
pale Brad Pitt face.
Yeah. And we were both sat there and we were like, oh, this is like a classic. Everyone really loves this movie. Let's give it a go. Let's check it out. Dreadful. Wow, it's interesting. It's not dreadful.
A lot of Brad Pitt's early stuff that like he was not heralded for, but like he came up with is not good.
It's not great.
Yeah,
I like the concept. That he was a vampire giving an interview to a human, and the human to begin with doesn't. It's Christian Slater for some reason.
Of all people.
Yeah, doesn't believe him at the beginning, and then it's like how he's gradually turned around on this story of him being like a hundreds of year old vampire and the things he went through. It's interesting. I kind of like the idea. I don't think it's particularly well executed, and some of the makeup and the body horror is a little bit wayward. Yeah, but it's funny. It's good. It's interesting.
You know what else I did watch was Malice in the Palace because you suggested it.
So good.
Yeah, it was good.
You liked it?
I did like it. I thought the biggest thing I drew from that was like Reggie Miller is still so bitter that he didn't get a championship. He was like, I just couldn't get these guys to stop fucking around.
Repeatedly. It was I
was like, you just said that. We know. Like he's obviously still so bitter. Then I also watched the Jurassic Park version of like what the movies that made us.
Oh, really? What did you think?
Which was awesome. Yeah. I'd heard a lot about that stuff before.
I'm chipping away.
It was cool to see I knew about the CGI stuff and how it like happened mid-movie. But it was cool to see how they still integrated everyone despite that.
Yeah.
You know? Spielberg's a good
and all the different studios working kind of separately, and then they kind of came together and went, wow, this is phenomenal. So that's a really awesome program. The Toys That Made Us is also very good, if you're interested. Because like there's ones on like stuff like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that you don't think about, but that started
as a toy,
as like a comic, became a toy, and then became like a TV show. So like it can't, and then like the Power Rangers
didn't they start as a toy?
Started as a toy.
Yeah.
It was a show to sell. I love stuff like that. It's really interesting. Well, anyway, super quickly, a couple of other bits. We've been watching a show from the UK called Line of Duty. Have you ever heard of it?
I have heard of it.
It's all right. It's interesting. It's very British. It's if you're not into British dramas and stuff.
I do like British stuff.
Okay, well you might like it. It's good. It's the first couple of seasons are tough because they have this sort of like flow to them where something epic, something interesting happens in the first episode.
They have tea.
Not epic. Something interesting happens in the first episode, and then 2, 3. It's 6 episodes.
Bad joke. Sorry.
2, 3, 4 are really slow. Like nothing happens. It's all police work, and one's undercover, and then 5 and 6 just like explode, and it's this kind of can I be arsed sitting through 4 episodes?
If it's good slow character build. I love it. I love slow character build.
I don't really like the 2 main characters, so it's a bit for me.
Like character episodes are oftentimes my favorite ones.
Okay, me too. I just don't like the 2 main characters. All the surrounding characters I genuinely really like. Tandy Newton's in it. It's got a bunch of people. Keely Hawes, like a bunch of big British actors. And the other thing I've been up to this week, I gave my old PlayStation 4 to one of my buddies who's been playing Spider-Man, and I got really jealous, and I've been playing Miles Morales, which is fucking great. I'd forgotten how good that game is.
I still haven't played it.
I actually prefer the actual original Spider-Man game. I don't know, there's something. He's got cooler like web shooter like weapons and stuff, whereas Miles has got this cool like electricity thing where he like hit people with it. It's not quite as fun. Like I like with the Peter Parker one, you can like fire these web shooters at them, like almost like they do in Homecoming, where if it hits the enemy, it explodes and they're like on a wall or some shit.
The
really
fun
good
stuff with that was like the time-based ones where you'd shoot in a bunch of guys and it would like
Oh yeah.
That was really cool. I like that.
Oh, you can do ones like trip mines.
Yeah,
so
that's what I meant. And then just like
all of that.
It does. You know that thing about that game is I started to feel overpowered, but I still had fun.
Yeah,
because it was like creatively overpowered.
But and they change the enemies subtly every time, so you get like different variations and things. It's really interesting. It's real good. That one I would highly recommend if anyone is interested in. If anyone has PS4 and wants to play, go back and play it. It's sick. I don't actually have the PS5 version, unfortunately, so I can't play the ray tracing and all that jazz. Well, anyway, speaking of Spider-Mans, did you hear this week we got some interesting news about the character of Oscar Isaac in the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movie.
I forgot he was going to be in that.
He wants to return as Spider-Man 2099, which I think would be awesome. Like he's only in it for like a minute at the end, as like a post-credit scene at the end of the first one.
I don't really remember.
Yeah, that's it. It's a post-credit scene. Like he's in it for like no time at all. I forgot what the character's name is. It's like Hector something. It's really interesting. It's really cool. I'd love to see him back. I mean, I'm so excited for the second movie. We talked about it last week.
Yeah.
That movie is going to be fresh. We've got a bit of Marvel news. We can jump around a little bit. We've got a few different bits of news. I'll give you the Marvel news first, and then I'll give you a couple of random bits, and then we'll have our nice segue into our main topic. How does that sound?
I'm down. I'm in. You start the news, and I'll give a little tidbit here and then.
All right. Did you hear this week that Sony has announced 2 more Spider-Man movies? They're obviously already well into production with Morbius, and Venom is out most places now, I think.
Is it?
Well, not here. But one is set for release on June 3rd, and one is set for release on October 6th in 2023.
Titles?
So,
no titles.
More untitled movies.
Who needs titles
to
these
not
days?
get excited? What's a title anyway? Like, who cares?
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff they could be doing. One of them could be that Aaron Taylor Johnson Craven the Hunter movie that we talked about. It could be that one. There could be so much stuff. Black Cat. She's a huge character in. God,
I forgot about her.
She's been gonna have a movie for so long. I guess we'll find out. I hope it's just not 2 origin story movies. I'm fucking sick of origin stories.
I like a good origin story.
Oh, here he is. Now he's
piping
origin. Up.
And you said that Batman Begins was your favorite one of the trilogy, didn't you?
No, it's
or not favorite, but you said it was underrated.
It's very underrated.
I think it's probably the best origin story.
That's probably because it actually. The difference between that and the origin stories we get now is that you don't really get an origin. You just get a setup.
They just cram like 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's a setup. It's not an origin.
It's not
story.
a proper origin.
Whereas Batman Begins, he goes through all his ninja training.
Yeah, it's a proper origin.
You see all. Yeah, exactly.
I agree.
Proper origin.
That's why I said I like a good origin story. Not a good origin segment.
Okay, an origin segment.
Not a good origin act.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Act 1 origin.
It's Act 1 of the movie. What do you think about that? Are you excited to see a bit of Black Cat or whomever it might be?
Yeah,
there's so many characters it could
Tom
be.
Holland's in it. I'm down.
Well, I don't know. There's all these people saying like, "Oh, don't spoil the post-credit scene for Venom." So I'm assuming Tom Holland shows up in it, like, because I haven't seen it.
Well,
I'm
thanks,
just guessing.
dude.
I'm just guessing. No. Well, I haven't told you anything. I don't know anything.
Yeah, but we all know it's coming.
I mean, it's gonna happen.
There's so much
point.
money to be made. With
they'll make so much cash on it. Well,
Yeah.
Did you hear this week that apparently an absolute favorite actor, all-time favorite of mine, Bill Murray, and I think you know this one.
Yeah, I did.
He's been cast in a mystery role for the Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania movie.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know for sure, but he made it pretty obvious. Did you see how this leaked?
No, go on.
He's like interviewing some German, like journalists. Like it was all in German, the article, and someone translated it, but it was some German media.
Could it be a poor translation, maybe?
No, it was pretty clear. It was, and it also sounded like Bill Murray.
Okay.
He's like, you know what? I'll tell you. Like, I actually recently got off like this Marvel movie, and I probably wasn't supposed to say that, but fuck it. Like, he just goes on and on. He's like, don't usually do this, but I really liked the director, and we vibed, and he was humble, and so I did the movie.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You have to send me links to that. I'd love to read it because he just doesn't give a shit, that guy, does he?
You mean like it's not gonna matter either? Like,
they'll
still get hired.
Everyone loves Bill
literally
Murray.
no issue. Like Disney's not gonna freaking.
I wonder what he's gonna play.
I mean, probably.
Bill Murray's so old now. Like I forget how old he is.
How old is he? I mean, he looks old. I don't know if he's actually.
I think he's like late 70s, early 80s, but like he looks old.
Yeah.
He's had a good life.
Yeah. He's been happy the whole time, it seems, as well.
Yes.
Just like every movie, he just seems jolly.
Well, we've talked about the story with him and the guy from the old Ghostbusters movies, how he got really sick. Yeah, we talked about that before. That's such a nice... I mean, that's Bill Murray for me. Like that, you know, he's just always redeemable.
Yeah.
Always redeemable.
Hearty, wholesome.
Exactly. One more quick bit of Marvel news before I shift on anyway. Rotten Tomatoes scores are coming in for the Eternals movie. Now, Rotten Tomatoes is one that I know I put a little bit of stock behind. But it's interesting.
Not this early, though.
No, it's interesting. It's very early in this, and it's the people we always talk about,
the ones who
are clearly paid for
just like licking ass over here. Sorry,
I'm gonna give you two sides of the coin, right?
Okay.
So on Rotten Tomatoes, it's got a 73% fresh, which is pretty good. It's
pretty grim for this early.
It's not amazing.
Yeah,
and I've seen a lot of like tweets and stuff about it that say it's really complex. Like the word they use in a lot of them is dense. So apparently it takes...
Is that like the English dense or like
great
the
question.
UK dense or like
Great
the American
question.
dense? Like, because we're like, oh, it's dense. Like, there's a lot there. You guys like, you're dense. You're a knob.
You're a knob. Yeah, pretty much. No, I think it's the American version. I don't know, man. Like, I feel like all the reviews I've seen have either been completely like, it's almost like they don't want to say anything in case they say something bad, or they're like, look, it's a long fucking movie. but it deals with a lot of big tones and themes.
Well,
and
Chloe
stuff.
she was always going to go
Yeah,
after some
exactly.
things like that. So maybe it's just like, it's not like so like it's not factory made Marvel. So
perhaps,
like,
and I mean that scares some people, but I'm down for that. Like I want that.
I fear it's going to be really like if I was to say how this would be a bad movie,
Okay.
I would say that it would try a bit too hard to like have Marvel moments.
Mm-hmm.
I would assume just because they know it's a Marvel movie, while also trying to be this indie.
It's definitely gonna have all of that.
To be this indie film,
Definitely gonna have.
You know
all
what
of
I mean? Where it's like, 'cause
Yep.
it's this director who's, from that kind of
background.
And then thirdly, would just have like random CGI thrown in, and it all wouldn't really fit together. It'd feel like 3 different tones in different movies.
That sounds like the trailers. Like if you look,
it does.
If you look at the bad guys, yeah.
They
look
exactly like
awful.
with like a really bad villain that like
They look
we've talked about this. Like
terrible.
it doesn't look like there's a villain that's very like
No,
I
don't even want to say.
intriguing. So that's the worry.
I'm a little concerned.
But I do like the main actor. So like if I'll go see,
I'm more intrigued to see what the Jon Snow character does.
yeah, if I'll go see like Black Widow, which had a bad villain.
Yeah, wow.
I'll go see Richard Madden and Jon
yeah.
Snow. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's
whatever.
very true. Actually, I think
Yeah.
there's no way it can be worse than the Black Widow movie. That's probably a low point for me. The Black Widow movie, not because it's a bad movie. I think the whole history of it, like it should have been out fucking 10 years ago.
I'm not even saying it was bad. I just think that like if I'll go watch that, I'll go watch this.
Yeah, fair enough.
So like if I set that as my expectation,
Mediocrity.
I'll probably be okay with whatever.
You would love Aquaman 2018.
You don't say. Let me go have a.
We should talk about
have a viewing.
So, well, did you hear anything this week?
I did.
What did you hear?
In time for our main talk. Actually, I'll save this one.
Let's save that because that's going to be a
I'll
segue
save
in a minute.
Yeah, but I did see the Uncharted trailer, which I think you might have
Well,
sent
friend
me.
of the show,
And-
Matt, actually sent us the Uncharted trailer, and I'd love to know your thoughts on this. Have you played the games?
I have played a bit of one.
Yep. Number one or just one
The
of them?
first one, I think.
Okay.
And I would be down. Like they look like my style of game. I just never. I had never had a PlayStation. Now I do. So now I'll go buy like the remastered trilogy or some shit.
I have Uncharted 4. I don't think I've got the physical copy. I can't.
There's 4. I thought there was only 3. I thought it was a trilogy.
They did a 4th. They did Drake's End, or whatever it's called.
Was it like
Thief's End? That's
oh
it.
yeah, I've heard of that one.
Yeah, no, I played it. It's all right. It's
Yeah.
good. It's exactly what I expected.
So yeah, what was I gonna say? I like it. Tom Holland feels a bit young.
Yeah, a lot of people have said that, but I wonder if it's.
But I never played the game, so that's just me thinking.
They do have
He's a bit
scenes
young.
in the games when you see him as a kid, and they sort of try and build his backstory out a little bit with his brother and stuff. I wonder if it's just a case of Sony just want to lock Tom Holland into as many things as they can.
Yeah.
They're like, let's just put you in as many movies as we can get you into.
I'm just trying to figure out like in what scenario do I believe that like a little 21-year-old is like, traversing these jungles.
Yeah.
They're gonna have to make the backstory.
Yeah, and knows all of the
like
intricate details of like.
It's gonna have to be a bit more believable.
Sure.
Than, like, hopefully it's not him as the main character. It's his come up. Where he's
maybe,
he's
but
the understudy of someone.
Mark Wahlberg, who looks like he has no idea what's happening in this movie.
I don't remember what.
It's nothing like Sully. Sully's like a fan favorite character.
Yeah,
and he just has nothing in this.
And Sully almost. It feels like he should have been.
Boston.
He should have been played by like.
Can you do a Boston accent?
I can, but probably not on demand.
Not on command.
Yeah, let me think about it.
Okay, no, keep going.
It's the. He should have been played by the guy that played the Black Widow. What am I saying? What the red?
Oh yeah.
What's his
David
name?
Harbour.
Yeah,
you think that should have been Sully?
I think it
Okay.
would have been great Sully.
All right.
But
I think he's. I don't know. I don't think he's got the look for it, but I mean, he's probably got the personality. Like he's quippy.
I think he could pull it off.
I think he could pull off the personality-wise, definitely.
Yeah.
But like Mark Wahlberg's from like Boston. I love that.
I'm the guy that does my job. You must be the other guy.
There's a guy on
That's The
Instagram like
Departed.
John O something, and he does like he gets like people to send in like requests for which celebrity, and most of the time it comes back to Mark Wahlberg. And it's always like Donnie. He's so good.
I'm the guy that does my. I can't even do it.
Is not.
I used to be able to do real. I probably could. I just need to practice and not.
Give
on
you some
command.
time.
Yeah,
Come
not
back
on
to
command.
it.
I'll come back next week.
Well, did you hear this week that Matrix Resurrections has apparently been rated R for violence and language?
Makes sense.
which is interesting.
Makes a lot of sense.
I
Like, if they're
assumed
going
it
to come
would've-
back and do a bang, they might as
They
well.
need to do it properly, and R-rated movies are making dollar nowadays. Like we talked about last week, the Joker made $1 billion worldwide.
I mean, how hard is it to sneak into a movie anyway?
It's really not hard, is it?
I used to do it.
Nobody cares.
Yeah.
I don't.
Do you think they're checking ID?
I think they would if they look. I mean, if they look in the UK, it's 18.
Saying I don't look 18.
Oh, you don't. In the UK, it's done by age bracket, so it's 12. Then they do 12A, which is if you're with an adult, you can come in if you're under 12. Then you've got 15, and you've got 18.
For anyone that cared.
For anyone that gives a shit about this random nonsense that we're talking about. But if you look under 18, then I think if you look like 14, they're gonna ID you. It's like if you go to a bar.
It's pretty ridiculous though these days. You just log into Netflix and watch anything.
That's true.
Like,
that's very true. I didn't even think about
anyway.
that. You probably get to see it regardless. Anyway, what do you think?
What do I think of
the R rating? I think
R
that's
rating?
great.
I mean, I have no thoughts. Weren't they all R?
No, I think they were all the PG-13.
First one surely was R.
I think they were PG-13.
Yeah. Wow. I guess like
I have no idea to
be honest. Like I have so many like doubts about this movie that like
I can't wait till we talk about.
I'm
the
glad
Matrix
that it's R
movies.
because that's like at least the combat will be visceral.
I can't wait till we talk about the Matrix movies because I have this one ridiculous story. I've mentioned it on the show before.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever told you it either. So like this one story about I went to see, I think it's the second one with some friends. I'm gonna save it till we talk about that movie one time because it's literally the dumbest shit you can imagine.
Okay. I'm ready for it when you're ready. And then I did see the Cowboy Bebop that you've talked about, the trailer that you sent me, and I'm impressed.
Full trailer comes out this week.
It looks like something I would dig. It looks like a little like private eye detective drama, but like set in space, but also set like in the 70s. With like a soundtrack from Quentin Tarantino movie. Like everything about it, I'm like, all right, yeah, this sounds like right up my alley.
This is John Cho's done a lot to change opinions of him, obviously from the days when he was
Harold
and Kumar. Yeah, exactly.
I was high on him then. Pun intended.
he's done a lot to change those opinions, and he looks sick in this.
Like he's been cool for a while.
He's a badass.
I feel like he's had a couple movies now where he's cool.
I like the whole cast. I like that it's a diverse little cast of characters, and none of them are really getting along. And it's like it's that awkward dynamic whereby one's a straight man, one's trying to get everyone together. One just wants to shoot the chick in the head, and the chick's just doing her own thing.
Notice all that. I was just
it's so good.
For me, it was just like the tone and the soundtrack.
Oh yeah,
and
fair.
The vibes.
It's got a very Tarantino-y feel to it, hasn't it?
It does.
But like,
or I think mixed with like a fucking what's it called? What's that 70s one with Ben Stiller, and it's like a remake, Starsky and Hutch.
Oh, okay, yeah.
As well.
Yeah, it's definitely got a more pop culture-y vibe to it. Do you know what I mean? Like, whereas I'd say Tarantino is more of like his own sort of weird 1950s indie movie vibe. This has got like a more pop culture feel to it.
It does, but the soundtrack is more what I was like, man, this feels
like
it could be the soundtrack with
time.
Tarantino.
I'm so with you on that. All right. Quickly then, before we move on, if you guys have heard anything this week that we didn't hear, hit us up on Instagram like Matt, friend of the show Matt did. We are at Podcast Assemble. Or
the podcast assemble@gmail.com.
That's it. We will find you.
It always takes me a little bit to get it out of my
you,
brain. And
you were a bit confused for a minute there.
I'll tell you why in a second once we get to my shorts, my dumb summary.
Yeah, all right, okay. Well,
I read the last part of my dumb summary and was like, why did I write that? And then I was like,
we're not there just yet. Final bit of news before we move on to the main topic. And to segue us in nicely, it has been announced only today that Dune is going to have a part 2.
Why did you say it like that? Dune.
How do you say it?
Dune.
It's not.
June.
It's June.
June, like
June?
the month of June.
It's been greenlit for a sequel.
I mean, like, in the greatest shock ever.
Well,
I mean, it is weird that it hasn't been.
Interestingly, and I'm going to ask a question about this later on.
It makes sense, I guess, maybe because they didn't know if they were going to make money.
Exactly, and that's part of the
COVID.
point. This massively was on a knife edge. They weren't sure. They were like, if this doesn't make money, it's opening weekend, it's probably not going to get a sequel. It's just going to be this.
I thought for sure they would. Someone would do it.
Think how expensive this movie was. You add all those actors into it.
It's his fault.
Not saying it is, but anyway, it had a pretty bumper weekend in its first weekend. It essentially made well over expectations. They expected sort of around 35 million, but it made 40, which is great. Which is
it even open in the States yet?
Yeah, it's open in the States over the weekend. It got simultaneous HBO Max and in cinemas release, and it beat in terms of simultaneous releases. It beat the highest. The record, which was set by Godzilla vs. Kong, funnily enough, one of our other podcasts. Plug for that one if you want to listen to us talk about a movie which is very average.
Big animals punching each other.
Exactly. 31.6 million that got in its opening weekend. So it was on a knife edge, like I say. They weren't entirely sure, but this comes as a wave of relief to me.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting a sequel for sure.
I just hope that they can get everyone back. Like, I'm not sure if they signed everyone on for 2 films.
I reckon, like, everyone wants to be back.
You'd hope so.
I mean, but there's a lot. I take your point.
There is a lot of big actors. And
getting
them together for the right. Yeah, exactly.
But, like, you know.
Well, segueing us nicely into our main theme. Do you want? Shall I give it a bit of a main topic theme? All right, main topic. Do you want to give it a premise?
I mean, yeah, it's just the new Dune. Dune 2021.
2021. Part 1.
Part 1, 2021.
Which was very clear about at the beginning of the movie.
Dennis Villeneuve. I'll never say his name.
Villeneuve. We need to get your partner to say it for us.
Dune. I have it as Dune-Dennis in my notes.
Dennis Dune and Dennis.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to give us your stupid plot summary?
Sure. I was excited for this movie, and
you know what? I was just gonna repeat mine from the last one, and then after watching the movie, I was like, it doesn't work.
You gotta do your own
It doesn't work.
I forgot what mine was, but it was that last one was so bad. Anyway,
hit me with your stupid plot summary.
Dune is what it would look like if Jesus was an emo, spiritual cult leader in a desert land devoid of water but rich in the world's most valuable energy source. Oh, wait, that's literally Jesus' origin story.
It is literally Jesus' origin story.
Plus butthole worms.
Wait, your butthole's got weird teeth coming across it? Wowza.
I don't know. I'm not talking about my butthole. I'm just saying, like, in general, like, I didn't know worms, like, looked like buttholes.
Okay.
But these ones, like...
Starfish, we'll call them.
Whatever you want to call
Chocolate starfish?
It's a bit... I don't know.
Chocolate starfish!
They've got these bristles as well. It's a bit gross.
Yeah, they must have been based on those weird fish
like
with
like a whale.
Oh, whales.
Bristles? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Anyway.
All right, do you want to hear mine?
No. But
okay, cool.
Yeah.
We'll skip on. No. All right. Redemption for this renowned classic. Sorry, let me start again. Redemption for this renowned cult classic, not featuring the big brains from Futurama, bald witches, boxed shield suits, pugs, or even any inner monologuing. Discovering your destiny never looked so good.
Thank fucking God.
Thank God. I just got to say, though, the pug's been left out. Really upset me.
You think they could have just done it?
They could have found a way to get the pugs in there. Almost like a weird little reference.
Yeah, that's the only thing it would be. Yeah.
Little Easter egg.
Yeah, I would have been okay with that. Well, yeah, I mean, this is like...
We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, let's be perfectly honest with you. You know, we all know the plot of this by now.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I don't know if you watched our first episode, you wouldn't know the plot because the plot... Or sorry, listen. Because the plot, I mean, like, that was all over the place.
Yeah.
That, you know...
One thing I was going to say is perhaps we should try and steer away from comparing them too much because I feel like it's night
This movie deserves its own thing. I don't want to talk about it much. I agree.
The plot essentially then of this movie is that we meet our protagonist, shall we call him, Paul Atreides. This time he's an actual youth, unlike in the last one when he was a 30-year-old man.
Which helps.
Which actually helps. Who is born with mysterious talents into a great house. And he follows his father to Dune, which is a planet Arrakis, where the family have been gifted, in quotation marks, the keys to a fortune, but is the gift a poison chalice? It's kind of the plot to this.
Nice. Yeah, and it follows like kind of the political intrigues of like...
Does it?
You know...
We'll come to that.
That's a different story.
Tell me before we start then, what do you think the IMDb score at present is for this? This is very early, by the way. It only came out the weekend.
8-1.
Close. It's 8-3. It's
that's
pretty good.
Bad.
Pretty high.
I think it's fair.
I think it's fair too. I mean, technically, this.
I think it could have been. Yeah, we'll get to it. I think there were some missteps. I think.
Sure,
but not as many things as they got right.
All right.
It'll be my high level.
Metacritic. What do you think that is?
85.
83. We've got a
just like
double on the 8.3s.
Okay.
And finally, Rotten Tomatoes.
I should say 83, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna say 94.
You think it's that high in Rotten Tomatoes?
I do.
Yikes! It's 75.
Really?
Yeah. I can see why though. I think it's the audience, Scott. I think on very first assumptions, like
you can't please everyone when
it's a long fucking movie.
See, I was just actually when I was thinking about it now, I was thinking like the Dune fans like might be like, oh, they didn't talk about the Michonne Protector. Like they might get all into like the lore. Like you didn't talk about my favorite family genealogy.
I'm going to talk a bit about that when we get to spoilers because there's a few bits in it that I thought they missed out, which
I'm not saying they didn't, but I could see how even if they got it right, somebody would be pissed.
Well, everyone's going to moan. All right. Yeah. So we mentioned up top, this is Denis Villeneuve, who is apparently adapting Dune for the big screen, and it's a lifelong dream of his, apparently, since he was 14. He's wanted to do this forever, which is really phenomenal, but we've talked about Villeneuve like a bunch of times. His filmography is amazing.
Dude, just crazy. It's the Rival, Blade Runner, Sicario, Prisoners.
We just don't deserve that, man.
I mean, these are like some of all of them, like and none of them top 50.
Made money.
Really?
None of them made money.
Why does it keep? Well, thank God someone
keeps
giving him movies.
Well, he's a fucking visionary, man.
Dude, have you seen The Enemy?
No, is he good?
It's his weirdest movie.
Okay,
like, this one was probably known. They knew when they were making it. Like this is not gonna make money. It's the most meta movie I've ever.
I'm gonna put it out here. I'm starting to prefer him to Chris Nolan. I think his movies actually make sense.
I mean, his movies are. I would say his movies are less ambitious for the most part.
Okay.
But more entertaining for the most part as well.
Okay. So you're saying they pander to broader audience?
Yes.
You're saying idiots like me would enjoy it?
I'm saying idiots.
Idiots like me.
I think that they're just like... I would say he kind of suffers a lot of the time from the same things that Nolan does. If you look at like...
Yeah.
Actually... I'm thinking about Sicario and Prisoners. Look, I just think he's a little bit more white bread as a movie maker.
I can see that.
But there's somewhere that you would say, like, you watch The Enemy and you'd be like, no, he's not. And like The Arrival, and you'd say like, no, he's
Arrival's
not.
Amazing.
Like The Arrival's like the perfect meld of like a movie that would attract a lot of people to watch it. I thought, but I guess not.
Arrival is amazing.
But also it's like super kind of meta and like creative in the way that it.
Well, this
subverts tropes.
He certainly knows how to handle a stacked cast. Like this is unbelievable. So Timothée Chalamet as Paul Atreides, Rebecca Ferguson as Jessica, Oscar Isaac. We got J-Mo, the big J-Mo's back as Duncan Idaho. That rhymes. Stellan Skarsgård as the Baron. We have to call out Josh Brolin's in it. Javier Bardem's in it. Zendaya. Chen Chang, Batista, David Dasmalchian. There's so many.
Fuck, I forgot about Batista.
There's so many, and it's amazing that he managed to get all these big personalities into this movie, and there's been no issues. Dave Batista didn't cause up a fuss like he always fucking seems to. Well, this segues us nicely into our lovely new segment, which is called Goofiest IMDb Pictures. Now, I'm going to give someone a redemption chance here and see what you think. But first and foremost, let me find the name of this. This is, I think this is an Irish name. Souad Faras. Saad Faras?
Saad.
I think it's probably an Irish name. But anyway, here you go. Here is, I'd like you to describe it for our listeners. This is the IMDb picture of said actor.
Maybe it's just like a...
What do you explain it? Explain the picture.
She looks like well, I don't want to be rude about her physical appearance, but it feels as if she's basically just taken a still from like a random fantasy movie that she was in and made it her IMDb picture.
Where she's like a witch or something.
She kind of looks like a witch.
I feel like I've seen that picture.
I feel like it's from a different movie.
Is she in Game of Thrones? Is that the one from Game of Thrones?
Nah, it's not the Meiji or whatever you're thinking.
When Daenerys goes back with all of the Horse Lord peoples, she gets captured.
I know what you're thinking.
Maybe
that's
her.
Maybe.
But that's a weird
check her credit.
That's a weird IMDb picture, right?
Yeah, it is odd.
Goofy?
I wouldn't say goofy, just creepy and odd.
Well, potentially redemption for this actor here then. Your second choice for goofiest IMDb picture is my favorite and your favorite, David Dasmalchian, who is part of the reason we started this goddamn segment.
I'm of two minds looking at this picture because he's
sort of sat hunched up, grabbing his knees, looking quite scared.
You know, he looks like the person, like that one that's like, I'm in danger. But alone in a dark room, actually.
Yeah. But that's his character in all movies.
That's my point. I'm of two minds. Like, maybe this isn't as dumb of an IMDb picture as we think, because he knows he's
pigeonholing himself.
He's seen himself in the mirror as like, this is the role I'm always gonna play.
Yeah, maybe.
And so he's marketed it, and it's worked because he's looking at how much money he's made playing this role.
But
Suicide Squad.
But still, it's pretty goofy.
There's like no way for him to like not look that way though. Like,
no.
I'm sorry, this guy does just look like that character.
It's an awesome picture. I love it.
Like get a tan, slick his hair back, whatever he does, he's still gonna be a bit.
Who wins?
Odd.
Who wins this week?
Let me see it again.
So you got I'm never gonna say a name right. So Fares.
Oh well, the other guy,
or David Desmalchian.
David wins.
Big Dave. He's there now.
I'm just not sure if he's gonna beat Jeff or whatever his name is.
You what?
What's his name?
Ray Buchanan?
Ray. Yeah, Ray.
the man of. So now what we do is we play off this week's winner against the current MVP of the show, who is
this guy's never
Ray
lost.
Never
lost.
He's like 8-0. He's killing it. So we've got David Desmalchian. I think this is close this week. I think really it is close.
I'm just debating.
It's Ray. What do you think? Give me a winner.
I think it's like I'm debating between like this guy who like thought that was a good picture, and this guy who knew that this was a bad picture but did it consciously. It's like
get it.
It's like they're the antithesis of
words.
each other. They're so
you're right.
contrary that I'm stuck. I'm gonna let you vote this time. I can't do it. I need the veto vote.
I'm a huge Ray Buchanan guy. So I think you're right though. I think David's is I think it's curated. I think like it's exactly that. It is there.
Creative. So this is more like a philosophical discussion about this award. What do we want this award to be?
I want Ray Buchanan.
I think that it's meant to be something that's like people that are like, you know,
trying
to be actors that just really didn't get what they were doing. And
Ray takes it once again.
Ray.
Unfortunately, he's killing it, man.
Ray, we need a shirt with your face on it, mate.
Yeah, we need to do that once.
Ray, come. Ray, join the pod as a guest, please.
Please. Well, I'm gonna reach out and see if we can
let's reach out to his agent, whose IMDb picture.
I need a deep breath over here. Right, okay, let's go into non-spoilers. So we do non-spoilers first, and we jump into spoilers for the movie.
Yeah.
Right, so first and foremost then, let's talk about the discussion points. Talk to me about the story. Did you like it?
Yeah, well, I like the story. Do I think that there's things that they underemphasized a bit? Yes.
Sure.
But I think that there was also, like, I guess, like, how long do you want this movie to be? You know, do you think they got the main point of the story across, and it was still a 2 hour and 10 minutes?
2.5.
Was it 2.5?
Yep.
So like, unless you make this thing 3 hours, like you're cutting something, and I don't think there was anything obvious that I'd want to cut. So I would say the story, I think they got it across, and I think they did it well. In particular, they didn't do the voiceover time.
Yeah. Oh my God, tell us.
They did a lot of like showing us, not telling, which was I think.
My comment for this was it was just exactly what I expected. Now that could be for one of two reasons. One, I've only read half of the book and I got to about the point where this movie ended and I fell off because it's a lot of waffle. But on the flip side of that, I also did say they did a great job of condensing all that waffle into this movie and making it coherent was fucking hard.
That would have been a hard enough thing as it is.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
Yeah. And so like I'm pretty impressed that he made it into a coherent 2.5 hour film that also doesn't see the climax.
And also had time to build in all that cinematography.
Yeah. The cinematography was cool.
Wow. We'll touch that in a minute then. So I think one thing they did really well for me, and we were sort of like talking about this as we were watching the movie, was the world building was unreal. Like the way he managed to capture like not even just Dune, but like the planet they come from in the first place, like the huge differences. I've forgotten what the home planet was called. Caladan.
Yeah.
And like it's blue, it's green, it's got all these great colors, and you're immediately setting yourself up to realize that when you get to Dune, it's just going to be like
a big
sand.
Yeah.
sand. But also when you're on Dune, you mentioned it straight away. You were like, the city itself just looks so industrial, so like gray.
It looks like what it was. Yeah, what it was. They were true to what it had been, right? Which was this industrial thing to literally just pull out this resource without regard for anybody else or anything other than that
absolutely.
resource. Yeah.
I thought that was fantastic. But I also love, and we made a lot of jokes about this while watching it, funnily enough, was all the appropriated cultures in this. Like, they just like grabbed like fucking bagpipes and were like,
it was actually cool how they like integrated these
agreeing.
different things into it.
Yeah, it was real interesting.
And I quite liked that. I thought, the direction and like the art styles in general were like really pretty like unique for sci-fi, and like gave it its own little little vibe.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a really interesting wrinkle that when you meet the Sardaukars, the sort of big bad army, they have this weird, like, you think it's music but it's not. It's this place in Europe they do like throat singing, where it's just like a weird like monotone note that sort of like shifts up and down, and in it it's just so like,
it honestly sounds like a didgeridoo when I was listening to it.
Honestly, it did. It was really interesting, and it's really oppressive. It makes you feel like really like almost like constricted while you're listening to it. It's great. And like things like that, the way they build all these, because the story of Dune is it's the future of our race, right? It's like however many thousands of years in the future. It's how they've still got these little through lines running through. I found that really interesting.
I did think one thing they did a really good job of, without spoiling, is like interweaving they could have done more on the political side, which we'll talk about, but they did interweave like very well the idea and concept that like in this world, like religion and state are actually, they didn't go the opposite, the way we have today, where it's like separated from feudal society and government, and it's actually more integrated and they're more closely interwoven. Like the religious style of it and then the kind of feudal governance are very much hand in hand, kind of like they were in the medieval ages.
Yeah, absolutely. And one point to the whole story is, and one they don't really touch upon in the movie, which is sad really, because it's a really interesting point. It's a really interesting world building aspect of the sort of Dune novels, is that it's a future where the humans have stopped using any types of like computers or anything that can like replicate thinking in any way. So like there was a big war with AIs or something in the past. I don't know. I read a thing. But like
I didn't even remember that.
But there are no computers in this. Like there's the scene at the very it's in the trailers where he's got the Gom Jabbar thing and that she's testing him with the pain. Yeah. And it's all in a big library, and it's really stark, the interesting look at it, being like, there is nothing there that could even look mechanical. It's really cool. It's really interesting. In terms of, I was going to mention costume design, because I think some of the costumes, man, the only thing I didn't really like was the visions forward, which are all in the trailer, where they all just look like Power Rangers fighting each other. Everything else is phenomenal in this.
They did kind of look like Power Rangers.
The still suits they all wear, which is so essentially in this, if you don't remember from our last episode, go back and listen to it. Arrakis Dune is so hot when you're in the deserts at times that you have to wear these skin tight suits that basically they recycle all of your bodily liquids, fluids and etc. and everything else, and you can shit yourself in it apparently as well, which is fun, and it all gets recycled so you don't lose any moisture.
Real class.
Yeah, I think they looked awesome.
They did look good, and in general, I think just the art, like the art design, the set design, like the vehicle and like kind of like spaceship stuff, it all looked really cool and was really unique.
Well, super quick then, before we move to the next part, what do you think of the worms?
I was gonna say I have three things that I was like, what do you think of the worms? What do you think of the voice? The worms I thought were, pretty cool.
I loved it. I thought it was great.
I thought they were really cool. I thought they also integrated them in really cool ways. Like they made some changes from the books. Like I thought they highlighted the worms in cool ways beyond just what the books did. Like, so there's obviously that iconic scene where the crawler gets taken down with a whole load of spice, right? Which is like really, really significant, because at the time, the House Atreides is weak and they need money, and so this is a big loss for them.
They need the spice.
because this worm comes and takes this cargo load of spice, and you get to see a worm in a cool way. There's another scene where a certain character dies that isn't in the book, and you get to see the worm attack again. So they did a good job of like changing things from the books,
and really building the worms
and
up,
really building them up into this cool thing without showing them fully. Which is again, you don't want to show the villain too early, or the creature too early in a movie. I think that we didn't see a full worm until the very end, almost.
Yeah. I've seen your worms too many times. I don't need to see these ones. Let's talk about performances. I thought the whole cast, I think everyone really pulled their weight in this. Like Timothée Chalamet, I mean, he is, but he really nailed the like sulky teenager. Like,
is he a teenager?
Great. In the book he is.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I think he's a bit older in real life. Yeah.
There's one thing that I did call out, and we called out pretty heavily when we did the 1984 version, was that women were so underutilized in that film. They were just, they were done dirty, man. They were done real dirty. And in this, there was a real focus on strong independent women who don't need no man. Even gender swapping characters. So, Liette Keynes, who
he got
portrayed
changed
by Sharon Duncan Brewster, gender swapped. Great. I know in the book it's called out as a man, but like,
there's no reason to be a man.
Yeah, there's no reason, and I think Duncan Brewster's incredible in that role. She's great.
Yeah,
I don't think I've seen her in anything before, but she's really great. So, what do you think of the performances overall?
Yeah, I don't want to just agree with you on everything, but I thought that they were really good. I particularly liked Lady Jessica.
Okay.
I particularly liked. Josh Brolin was just,
why did you like Lady Jessica? For what reason?
I just thought that she like played this like I thought she played the conflicted side of her, like wanting to be a mom,
yes,
while also trying to do this thing without spoiling the movie, trying to like back channel for this like secret organization and the conflict there really well, so well in fact that I wish they would have expanded on like the relationship with Oscar Isaac a bit more. It felt like it was floated over.
Yeah, agreed.
To be honest, but because and just like the way that she like you could see her switch from like mom to teacher, like they were two distinct personas for her.
It's like it's like Christian Bale in last week's movie. The subtle differences are what me.
Yeah.
Plug for The Prestige last week. Well, I really liked J-Mo in this. I thought he was amazing. He was like, I love that they just sort of, if he ever rocked up on set, people are just like, just let Jason Momoa be Jason Momoa.
Yeah,
like,
he didn't really try too hard.
He's not really. Yeah. He shaves his beard and that's about it for this. Like, he just plays himself.
Yeah, and then I thought Javier Bardem was really good too.
Man, yeah, he was so good. I forget how good he is every time.
Yeah.
I see him and I'm like, wow. Like, we nearly watched No Country for Old Men the other day, and I was like,
God, that movie's creepy.
It's just so deep. I was like, I'm not sure I could deal with this right now.
I love that movie.
Yeah, it's
great
so
movie.
Good. What do you think of the pacing of this? Because it is long, 2.5 hours.
Honestly, I didn't mind the length.
Okay.
I said that, like, that's why when you said 2.5, I thought it was gonna be 2 hours and 10.
Like I say, I had some intense stuff happen this weekend, and I was like real tired when we were watching this.
Yeah.
And towards the end, I was fading.
Yeah, you were.
Really
I honestly wasn't. I was pretty into it.
You were psyched.
But also, I really like Dune. Like, I think you're not as sold on it.
Mate, I was so sold on this.
You were sold on the movie. I just mean like that. I also, the truth is you did just read half the book. So, like, all of it's way fresher for you. Whereas I was still kind of discovering things a bit. Like, it was like I was being re-surprised by certain things and not really exactly sure how things were going to go down. But overall, I think that the cast that we were on casting, they killed it.
Yeah.
Like, there's not one poorly cast individual.
I agreed. And I think I think so there's two things we normally talk about here: cinematography, action, and CGI. But I think in terms of I think you can almost club those three together. Like, we've talked about cinematography to death already. It was phenomenal. It's just Villeneuve. That's his style. He's amazing. But I think I read a comment by him that was like, he wasn't trying to make a sci-fi movie. He was trying to make a period piece. And you can really see that coming through in things like the design, the clothing design, and all the stuff around them. It's amazing. I think the action. Sorry, I should have said the action CGI kind of fit together. I think the action scenes are the only real bits for me, other than the spaceships, when they really have a lot of CGI, or at least heavy CGI. But the CGI is flawless.
Yeah, what did you think about the action and like the concept of like the shields and how it was used?
I liked it.
Yeah, I thought it looked.
I missed the boxes.
I think that the Gumby
I really
boxes.
wanted the weird box things.
Forgot about that.
It's an interesting
plug to our
concept,
older
right?
episode on Dune where we criticized the combat in the original.
Please go back and listen to that one.
Would if you saw it.
I think it's really interesting. Like the whole point that, and this is one thing I was going to mention later on, that the suits they have, the shield suits, they basically render like projectile weapons useless, right? That's the whole point. So that's why they have to do this sort of close fighting form, which is almost like fencing-ish. And they don't really build on that. And I'm like, this is so fucking interesting. Tell me about this.
I think they don't build on it because like the actual concept of that is ridiculous. Like the only way to touch someone is to slowly touch them. Slowly. It's like if the field can stop a projectile weapon, why can't you come up with a shield that can stop like a spoon slowly touching someone?
Or just fire a really slow bullet at them.
Yeah.
But then
I think that's actually really hard to do. Like
there is another wrinkle of this, that if the shield touches one of the lasers or whatever they call them, apparently it just causes a fucking huge explosion. So that's why they don't use them at the same time.
What lasers?
Well, they use one of the lasers in one of the final scenes of this. They have lasers in this universe. I think
they're kind of like
lasers or something. It's like
they're protecting each other, kind of. From
it just causes a huge explosion. They all explode.
Yeah.
Right. Let's do tones and themes. I'm itching to talk some spoilers.
Real quick.
Sorry.
What did you think of the voice and the way they handled it?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, the voice.
And to be clear, the voice is a part of this, and this isn't really a spoiler, but
no, it's not at all.
We know that like there's this religious kind of society that also has powers. We're not. It's kind of
we didn't talk about the Bene Gesserits again.
Yeah, the Bene Gesserits is like the religious side of this universe that is pretty intertwined. They're almost like advisors to the feudal society leaders, and they have these weird powers, which range from being able to kind of see the future and understand it to being able to basically mind control. Kind of via
which is
this
kind
like
of the voice,
which is the voice. And so the way they handle the voice in this is very different from the original. Again, we don't want to compare them, but
I liked it. Yeah.
I thought so too. I thought it was pretty cool.
I thought it was it was interesting because when it's used, you sort of get this sort of deep dark feel to it.
You're like anxious.
Yeah, but when it does it, I could hear like when he meets what was the lady, the grandmother or whatever she's called.
Yeah, the grandmother or something.
Whatever she was called.
The head of the Bene Gesserit.
The head of the Bene. You could hear her voice in it, but also you could hear almost like generations of Bene Gesserits.
Yeah,
as well.
It was cool how they did
and
it.
It was
like almost evil. Like you're like, this kind of isn't good.
Well, it's not though. Like you shouldn't be fucking mind controlling people.
Exactly.
It's not a good thing.
That's my point. Like it should sound a bit like.
I liked it, and I liked that he wasn't. He had to go through that hero arc to use it towards the end.
And you could tell when he tried to use it and failed. Like it wasn't quite what it was close. It was, but it wasn't quite what hers was.
I liked how they did those scenes as well. Like I watched an interview with Villeneuve before where he was talking about the scene in the library with the grandmother, whatever she's called, and Timothée Chalamet, and they cut it really interestingly so that it's like almost like you hear the voice and then you see him almost like going to it's like he's not a trance.
You don't see where he went, but in time passed.
Exactly.
And he like ends up right in front of her.
He's quite far away from it, and then all of a sudden you see this weird visual where it cuts to his almost like a close-up type thing, and then he's all of a sudden kneeling in front of her.
Where it's like you were him. You felt like you were him. You felt like you understood how he felt.
Exactly. You felt like you were drawn into this, and you're like, wow, how did he get there? And he's like, how did I get here?
Yeah. He put you in his shoes.
It's really really good. I liked what they did with that. Tones and themes then, super quick.
I mean, like there's a lot you could say about like nature versus like human versus environment and human versus nature. There's a lot with like fate versus like free will.
Yep.
And then it's kind of like a coming of age.
Yeah, I got the becoming a man sort of type thing. I also caught there's a lot of like destiny in there as well, and how destiny can be fickle. I think that's something not many movies really dive into.
Well, that's what I mean. Like with fate versus free will is like, is it destiny or is it just like the choices that you've kind of convinced yourself you have to do and you chose?
Yeah, it's like the Death Stone that Morty has in Rick and Morty when he's like, it's the choices take him towards different paths.
Yeah.
And the other one I put was, what it takes to be a hero. Like at no point does Paul ever actively want to be a hero. In fact, he tries to like duck it a bunch of times.
That's kind of like,
and you feel like that's the way he's going at the end of this movie. It's like he's becoming this thing that he doesn't really want to be, but knows he kind of has to be.
I mean, it's like the begrudging hero. Like usually the ones that are good are like, that's the Jon Snow. Like he doesn't
say that in the movie. Something along the lines of,
I don't know.
Good leaders aren't chosen. Yeah. It's full Spider-Man. Like, with great power comes great responsibility.
Well, I think it's also just like the fantasy hero archetype. When you do it like, oh, this great person who's destined for great things, it's better when it's like, no, it's this person who like does the shitty things, the hard things, because they they don't really have a choice, or they like it's the right choice for them in their life. Like Jon Snow, like
agreed.
He ends up being the hero of Game of Thrones, but he did the shitty thing. He went to the wall.
Does he? Does he become the hero?
No one goes to the. No one goes.
No one
to the wall.
chooses to go to the wall.
No one goes to the wall.
Exactly.
He did what he thought was the right thing to do honorably, which was a bad choice.
He was just an idiot. All right. Give me your
Tommy's over my Game of Thrones chat.
No, I love Game
of Thrones. I
just watched a YouTube video just before this that was 10 reasons to rewatch Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Oof.
I think I might rewatch it.
It's too early.
You think?
Yeah, it's too early for me.
Okay. One of my buddies was telling me before he's just rewatching it, and I think he's up to about season 5. I'm
sure I'd love it, but
I've rewatched it so many times in the past though.
Yeah.
All right, 3 best, 3 worst before we start talking about Thrones.
The fall of House Atreides.
Okay.
Like that whole sequence.
So
when it's all happening.
The ending thing that's most of the trailer.
Sorry, did I just spoil the
No. Like that is a lot of the trailer. You see a lot.
A lot of the action.
The big
in the trailer.
space battle you see in the trailer is literally
the fall of House Atreides. Are we doing spoilers now?
No. This is just 3 best and 3 worst.
Okay, well, the House Atreides falls.
I mean, that's pretty much in the trailers. So.
Yeah, but no one knew what it was. Anyway, that whole sequence is badass.
Well, if you've listened to our last podcast, you'll know it. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I put the basically that whole the whole sequence with the box, or the pain box.
Oh, the gom jabbar.
Yeah, whatever you call it.
What a weird name for it. That's the poison, though, right?
I don't know. It sounds like gibberish. Literal gibberish.
It's trying to. It's something about. The fight or flight, isn't it? It's if your humanity can overcome the animalistic nature of you trying to fight your way out of a situation.
I loved that, like the acting, how tense it was. You were like, you didn't know what this was. I did, but like
I have a point in spoilers which just says, it's not really a spoiler. It just says, in the pain scene, Timothée Chalamet literally goes cross-eyed.
He does. I think that was a choice though, for sure. It wasn't like he accidentally did that.
Oh,
like he did it on purpose.
God,
I thought the grandmother or whatever was like really.
She was
that art
creepy.
design. It was creepy. You weren't sure what was going on, so that was a big part for me. And then I was debating between, a couple different ones, but I ended up on the way they handle like that. So much of this book is about prophecy, and like there's all this foreshadowing at the beginning of each chapter. I don't know if you remember from your reading, where they like do these weird little historical lore things that kind of tell you what's happening, but you're kind of confused. The way they handled that stuff via like these like weird little dream sequences, where you kind of saw like without spoiling it, part of like being in the Ben Gesserit is like you can see the future. You saw different versions of the future, and you kind of also saw how like they snuck those in via dreams, and Paul had to kind of like interpret them and make a decision based off that.
Yeah.
And I loved how it wasn't clear. Like they made it very.
Let's come back to that, because I really want to dig into that.
But in essence, they made it very vague, which I liked.
All right. A couple from me. I really like the Faceless Emperor. So a big part of the story is that there is an emperor of the universe, essentially galaxy universe.
Yeah.
And he is kind of pulling the strings in the background, whereas in the 84 movie, they literally introduce you to him with a big brain in the first scene of the movie. And in this, you don't see anything. You just hear about him.
And you see the fucking army he's made, where they're like water torturing them to make them better soldiers. You're like, this guy's fucked up. Like, so it builds his mystique for sure.
Builds mystique really well. I like that a lot. The second one I've got is the fact that it's only part 1. I love the fact that this I mean, you saw in the first attempt at the attempt we've talked about for this, like it's too much for one movie. Like they've given him time to breathe. They let Villeneuve do his thing. He's a very meandering, very thoughtful director. And
I feel like meandering has like a negative connotation.
Meandering in a good way. it's pondering. It's very thoughtful. It's very deep. And I think without that room to breathe and be that director, and they just tried to force him to make it in one movie, this would have not been good.
I read a lot of stuff about how he basically is like, I need to like proactively make sure I'm not just lore dumping. Like,
100%.
and so that stuff you said about the AI and how there's no calculators and how they have these things called like menatets or whatever, and you see a couple of them. Yep. They're not explained. Apparently, he's saving a lot of that exposition for the next one, so that he didn't like just make it super hard for like non-normal viewers.
All right, my final one then was just the world. I think they're gonna. Now we know there's a second one coming. They're probably gonna spin off a lot of things from this. If the second one does well,
I would be really down for him to make like major changes to the story and draw this out like into like a proper trilogy.
Well, I think apparently his plan is for a trilogy. Yeah. He wants to do these two, then he wants to do an ending to Paul's story, which is based off one of the books, which is going to be great. What are your 3 worst, buddy?
I feel like they should have expanded more on Oscar Isaac's
expunged
Oscar Isaac's marriage.
Yes.
And the lack thereof.
Yes.
And like what that meant politically and what that meant for their relationship and what that meant for like the Ben Gesserit and trying to control House Kaladin or House Atreides, and what that, whether that was from the Emperor and all, like there's all these little things that they kind of, because they didn't dive into that, those other things fell a bit short.
A bunch of the nuance was mished. And I'm going to touch on a few of them when we get to spoilers. And I think it was quite detrimental personally to some of the movie, but let's go with the next one.
Maybe, and it's unfair to say that they won't do some of that later.
No, it's absolutely not. But I think if you're going into this completely blind, it's a bit like a Chris Nolan movie. It holds too much back for a sequel that at the time he didn't know he was even going to get. And it was just a bit confusing.
And some of it is like set in stone, right? Because the way we'll talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Go
on. I would have liked to have more about Lady Jessica and something that happens with her that I can't talk about because it's a spoiler.
Nice. Sure. She's a really interesting character.
I would have liked to have more about her and like the relation, like the debate between like her son and like being her son and being a teacher.
Yeah, okay.
Which I think we'll get next movie, to be fair. So it's not really.
It sounds like we might. Yeah. Okay. My 3 are. I think we've talked about this previously, and you made a very good point about this to me, that this sort of novel basically invented a lot of the tropes that are sci-fi tropes nowadays, but it's tough when you weren't there in the first place to realize them. Where now it kind of looks just like a lot of movie tropes, sci-fi tropes, It did come across at times a little tropey, and I know that's probably almost there, so nerds will be like, oh, but this was the original book, and you're supposed to say that. It's like, I get it, but it's still a trope. Like,
but they cut a lot of that though.
Okay,
like they cut the stuff about like the main villain, the Harkonnen guy, the Baron, being like a pedophile
that's true actually,
guy like that or whatever the heck,
We'll talk about him in a sec.
My point is though, they cut that because it was like super tropey, like they just
unnecessary.
It added nothing.
All right, well I've also got like, I mean this, I'm stretching a bit here, but like it was pretty exposition heavy at times, but it kind of needed it, so I'm on the fence about that one. And my last one was just that Sting wasn't in this movie. Where was Sting? I wanted a cameo.
My last one, because I only did 2, but I'll give you my third, is that like I wanted more Josh Brolin because I just love what he says. They're brutal.
It's like, get everything we have in the air.
They're brutal.
What is it? Everything
the way he does it is just like so exaggerated, but so good. Yeah.
He's great, man.
He's good.
But then I can't not hear Thanos when he talks.
Yeah, but when he's saying something like they're brutal, it makes sense. It sounds like
that's true. All right. Jumping to spoilers, it's better than Aquaman.
Yeah, I mean, definitely better than Aquaman.
Yeah, this is a real good fucking movie.
I quite liked it. We talked about it a bunch. How I liked it. The cool parts that I mean, just like everything about the action sequences was cool. Everything about the actors, like they were well casted and executed their roles well. Like anything that was a negative was largely because not like of anything other than the fact that like things were cut, I think.
Okay.
Not because of what they chose to do.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Like this movie could have been better if there's a couple things they didn't cut, added in. But then it's a 2.5 hour movie. So I guess like you pick your poison. I'm trying to think like what I would have cut to add the things in that I think you would say you would want.
Well, shall we call spoilers and I'll bring a few up now?
Do it.
Okay, spoiler time. Okay, so I've got 4 points here. So my core problem with the movie, really, I very much like this movie. I've got very little against it. I think it's very well done, etc. But it doesn't set up a lot of the plot beats. So perfect example is, you wanted to mention it before, Dr. Yui, right? In his character betrays the house Atreides to the Baron and essentially gives Duke Leto, Oscar Isaac, to the Duke to do whatever he wants with.
The Baron on a platter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But there is no setup for that. You don't. It's not.
His betrayal means nothing. He's had 2 scenes, one where he measures Paul's pulse, and another where he says something.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So there's no weight to it.
Yeah, I agree.
And in the book and even in the first movie, it's built up like there's a spy, there's someone on the inside. Whereas in this,
they kind of like vaguely hint at it. At best.
I didn't notice that. They may have done, but
they didn't even hint at the spy. They just hinted that there's traps.
Okay. I mean, that didn't do anything for me.
No, I agree. In the book, it's like there's way more stuff around like we need to keep our friends close.
Exactly. That's another one I was going to bring up as well. I just think there was a lot of character building that was missed out of this, especially around people like Yui. You mentioned before around like the Oscar Isaac's character, not only with Lady Jessica but also with Paul. He didn't. There wasn't enough of him. I didn't feel like you got enough of the love he has for them both, because in the book he's very stoic. Even in the first movie he doesn't really say a lot to them, whereas in this he's just kind of like a nice dude who's like, you're gonna be a good guy someday. Whereas like I think they missed some of the character building that was why he was so fiercely protective.
They missed some of the family building.
That's kind of what I'm getting at.
These were like just people in Paul's life except for his mom, but like,
well, yeah, it's also noted, I mean, like in the first one in the book, like they know they're walking into a trap on Dune. Like it's one of the first things they talk about. Like they know they're going to this place where they're going to be attacked and destroyed by the Harkonnens, but they don't even say it in this. It's like that gives them a fierce wrinkle. They're like this fucking badass family who are like, we know this is fucked up, but if we can get this right,
we'll win the universe. That. They don't talk about like the fact that like failure is like death for all of them as much as they should, don't. I think.
And they should.
The gravity wasn't as clear.
Yeah,
I'll give you that.
And the last one is, I think I didn't think the Baron was built up enough.
Really? I like that he was this silent fucking dude.
But we already have that. We already have the Emperor in the background. I just think there was... I don't think it needed the tropes we talked about. It didn't need all the weird shit.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of... he was ominous and scary, but I didn't know why or for what reason. I was like, what
Greed.
But what have they got against each other? They didn't tell us anything about the Harkonnen.
No, I agree. There was not, again, like one of my worst was like they didn't touch on the political intrigue enough.
Big time.
And that includes like
Big time.
I'm not asking for trade federation arguments.
We do not want Star Wars Attack of the Clones. That's not what we want.
But like it was intriguing how they talked about how like House Atreides, like they're two of the powerful houses that he's like manufacturing a war.
Yeah, big time.
Against each other to weaken them because he is threatened by both of them.
I wonder if some of that's going to come in the second movie.
I'm sure it will.
I think there's a really interesting like playoff between like the Emperor who's trying to play this game to get the Harkonnens and House Atreides to kill each other, essentially destroy each other, or weaken each other massively at least. And the what were the Bene Gesserits? The Bene Gesserits, who are essentially trying to manipulate these great houses into having like this savior Messiah figure, which I didn't realize, but I was reading about it. Apparently, it's supposed to come down to that they wanted the Harkonnens to have a son, and they wanted and they wanted House Atreides to have a daughter, wed them, and then that would become the. But
yeah.
Like, and I know that would mean a lot of exposition and a lot of stuff, but I didn't really get it at the time while I was watching
they needed to include a bit more lore, I think.
Sure.
But it was like he erred on the side of like including less.
Would you have liked them to hand you a little book with all the lore in when you started the movie?
No, I would have liked. I would have just liked more I guess like it's hard. Like I think that like this is a movie that almost like it shouldn't be a movie. It should almost be a show, like a mini series. You know what I mean? Like, cause like I don't think you could have done. You could have added a few scenes, maybe cut out a battle scene.
I didn't mind. I thought the battle scenes were great.
I thought they were awesome, but my point is like either you make it longer or you cut something. And I'm trying to figure out. I still can't figure out what I'd cut.
I think they could have given us 10 more minutes. Like it's already an hour 30. Make it an hour 40.
Yeah.
And in that time, you give us a few bits of really key exposition around the war, why the Harkonnens and the Atreides hate each other,
and like the feudal system.
The feudal system, definitely,
and the way the Bene Gesserit is woven into it.
That's the fourth one.
You give me that feels like 25 minutes.
It's
not
really
15.
not. It
feels like 25.
It could have been a couple of sentences said between. Like there was a scene when Jessica and the old mother, we're never going to remember what she's called, when they met. There could have been just 3 sentences in that where they just explain the Bene Gesserit.
I thought they did a lot in that scene for exposition. I think it's more like Dr. Yui. And like you have to interwove like
he needed more.
That guy with Jessica and some other scene where you talk about the inner workings of the world and in an argument with each other that would kind of do 2 birds with 1 stone or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay. But you can see where I'm coming from. Why
a
novice to this just would be so baffled.
Yeah.
Like if I hadn't have done the stuff I'd done, read half the book and watched the 1984 movie, I wouldn't have had a clue. I'd have been like, what the fuck is happening?
They kept it real high level. They were like,
they really did.
The Bene Gesserit gives powers. Paul wasn't supposed to be trained. Why? We don't know.
Okay. Yeah.
Because he's a boy. They do hint at it, like, oh, he's a boy, and we were chasing this bloodline for 2 generations, and you fucked it. Yeah. But like, that doesn't make any sense to anyone that doesn't.
One thing you pointed out to me, which I didn't really understand in the movie, I did not understand. I'm making myself sound like a complete fool. I didn't get the subtleties of in the movie was that. The visions that Paul was having, they were effectively, and stop me if I'm wrong, they seem to be showing a few different pathways or 1 or 2 pathways he could go down, and he's almost got to navigate between them for the one that's going to get him to where he needs to be. But also they weren't visions of what necessarily was going to happen.
They were like symbolic.
It was
like unclear what they were as they were happening, which is exactly what like visions should be.
Sure.
Right? In fantasy,
absolutely.
Right? It's like a dream, right?
And I think in hindsight, knowing that, if I'd have had the Dre pamphlet that told me what I was watching, I think it would have been great. But at the time, I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, you know?
No, I agree. I don't think you're meant to. It's meant to be just confusing enough that you can't do it upon even maybe first or second viewing, right? It's meant to be.
It would need to watch it again. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like I'm good for that as well because as much as it doesn't sound like it, like this was a real gripping movie.
How cool was like when House Atreides just gets destroyed?
Fucking awesome.
Like, and there's just bombs coming from the
awesome.
And the bombs were really cool too. It was like these weird little bubbles that then all of a sudden just exploded.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting, wasn't it?
I quite liked it. It was different.
I wasn't sure how that would work with gravity and such, but like it was very cool to look at.
It's not Newton, right?
Get everything with guns in the air.
Well, they're all gonna blow up.
That's your
spoiler.
That's my version of your.
They're brutal.
What was your Superman one? I will fight it. Get everything with guns in the air. That's my version of that. Yeah. Look, man. Like I wondered what you thought. One question I had for you was this ends quite considering you have this huge battle, but it ends on like quite a not slow, but like a small scale. Sorry, like knife fight. What did you think of that?
I kind of liked it. Like we were like, one thing I'll say is I agree we should have had like that 15-20 minutes before the fall.
You can't say one thing. You got to say at least 3. Go on, sorry.
I like that. I agree that we needed that extra like exposition and I guess intrigue. But I did like that I was like not even halfway into the movie or maybe about halfway, and it just felt like everything was happening, and like there was this big battle. They were like all was lost very early in the movie. It felt like, and you were like, okay, well, how are they going to end this? And I did like that it ended on this almost like subtle, hey, this is like this battle that you weren't sure you knew how it was going to end, but like it almost introduced new characters. As the movie was ending. I did like it. It was very Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, big time. I think what it did was it gave the biggest bit of character development we'd had for Timothée Chalamet in the whole film, right at the very end. So you can he's on the precipice of doing great things and becoming this sort of messiah-ish character. He's coming out of his wilderness almost, and then it ends, and I'm like, fuck, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like, and he had to go to get there. He had to kill someone, which he'd obviously never done before.
That's true. It was,
and I found that really interesting.
It was a big thing.
That was like a step to being a man.
They literally say it.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, she said, doesn't she?
She's like, he's not, because he's like, what is he toying with him? And she's like, no, he's
literally just never killed
a man.
Which I mean, that's a pretty brutal way to become a man. Nowadays, you just have a drinking with your old man, but like, look, I mean, for me, like, other than bringing out those sort of weird points that didn't really make sense to me and sort of nutting them out with you, like, I don't think there's a lot to spoil in this movie. Like, most of it's in the fucking trailer anyway.
There's still things you could spoil, as I did in my 3 worst.
Give me some more.
There's the fact that, like, the main that main like adjudicator lady dies, and I was going to talk about that earlier, but I stopped myself.
Oh, Leah. Yeah,
the Kane's girl, which they did a gender swap, which was really good.
Yeah.
They changed the way she died from being like just really uneventful off-page event to being like this cool thing that like
she kind of saved them.
She saves them. It highlights the power of the worms and being like one with like your native. Like she was almost like welcoming it at the end. Like, at least I get to die this way when the worm consumes her, which I mean, it's not what anyone else
it's not
normal would think.
It's like going in the Sarlacc pit in Star Wars.
Yeah,
like,
she seemed to be okay with it.
Yeah, she was.
And then
peace be with you.
What else? The fact that like she wasn't supposed to. Basically, the Emperor plans to kill House Atreides. Like,
essentially,
it's basically
they're getting popular.
Yeah, they're getting ttoo strong, and like he's basically using these two houses to fight with each other, and he chooses to basically betray House Atreides and basically, what's the word? Corruptly. Yeah, I guess it's against the law for this world to do what he does, but he basically sends in these super soldiers to go kill him.
It's the classic high school story. Like, one kid is jealous of the other kid who's popular. He sends in a bunch of his elite soldiers
and murders them
all.
And murders them in radio silence.
Classic high school musical,
yeah,
right?
Basically, it's a coup. It's basically a coup.
It essentially is.
But
it's interesting that they think they're getting the keys to this, like, huge wealth, which is available on Dune, right? And House Arrakis are like, oh, we can... Is it House Atreides? Sorry. House Atreides are like, we've got this. This is our chance. We can become the like one of the more powerful like families, but it's such a big ploy to just have this petty emperor kill them.
I think that like they see it as what it is. Like, they see it as what they're meant to see it as.
They didn't build on that in this story.
They didn't do it well enough, but they see it as what they're meant to see it as, which is an opportunity.
Yes.
For these two great houses to weaken each other, and they're like, yeah, the emperor wants that because he's threatened by both of us. But really, what they should have seen it as is, hey, he's actually threatened by you guys. He doesn't think these Harkonnen guys are actually smart enough to handle anything. So he just knows they're greedy enough to take the risk to take you out if I let them. Yep. And I'm going to let them. And I think what they could have done is talked about a bit more about, like, there's this like Senate in the books.
Okay.
That's like all the.
So we're gonna go full Star Wars Attack of the Clones. Okay, cool.
It's like the House of the Representatives. It's like all the minor houses.
Yeah.
But they have like a strong vote together.
Yeah.
And what they don't talk about in the books is, what they don't talk about in the movie is, in the books, these guys really like House Atreides.
Yeah.
And so
they're
together
really
with them and a couple other big houses, they actually threaten the Emperor.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Sorry, little
lore
dump.
Great. I think, I mean, we didn't get that in the movie. What I'm saying is, to a layman like that, I didn't get it.
No, you needed a scene of that. You needed
something
before Oscar Isaac dies, who we also did. That's a spoiler we didn't talk about. Oscar Isaac dies.
I mean, really, he dies so early on in this.
That's my point.
We're talking about the whole novel.
Yeah, they could have put more stuff in.
I found it really interesting that he's just murked.
He was a bit underutilized because of that.
He was a little bit, yeah. I really like that character as well, the stoic father figure. So basically, he's captured. We mentioned he is Dr. Yui. Dr. Yui is a traitor, and
because the main bad guy has his wife, and he's torturing her.
Says he has his wife. He was always going to murder him anyway.
Which was why it felt even more useless.
So stupid.
Yeah.
And anyway, so he hands over Duke Leto to the Harkonnen Baron. Fuck, I forgot his name. But he gives him like a poison tooth so he can breathe this poison out at the Baron. kill the Baron manages to get his shield on beforehand.
He looked like Batman up in the.
And he's like, we haven't talked anything about
He
those
floats
weird,
up into
those
the
weird
corner.
anti-gravity devices.
Yeah.
Oh, they're so weird.
Yeah.
Let's not get into that now. That's too strange. But I did love the design of the Harkonnens, that there were all these weird bald, completely hairless beings.
Like, what's going on there?
So weird. Better than what they did in the first one, where they were just weird ginger people.
They were all gingers.
They were. Even Sting.
What were they trying to say about that?
I don't know.
It's kind of a statement to
gingers don't have souls.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
apparently.
the joke. Look, I genuinely really enjoyed this movie. Do you want to hear a bit of trivia?
I was going to say, yeah, let's move on. We've talked it to death.
We have.
I'm ready.
Would you like a bit of trivia, true or false?
Yeah. Hit me
Okay.
with it.
Right, here you go. Trivia, true or false? True or false? Composer Hans Zimmer is a big fan of the novel Dune, and he turned down working with Chris Nolan on Tenet to score this film.
I'm like trying to think if the timelines align, but I think they do because Dune was delayed, and I'm going to say it's true.
It is true.
Yeah.
He's apparently a huge fan, and Nolan really wanted him for Tenet. Well, I mean, why wouldn't you? He chose this one. I found that awesome. Such an interesting.
Fair.
Yeah. So David Lynch, who directed the 1984 movie, stated that he loves Dune 2021 and says that his issues are with his own film and not with this current version. True or false?
Would he have already made a statement? False.
God, everyone's made a fucking statement about this film.
I don't know.
Even Chris Nolan came out and said it's like the best movie ever. He had a big old love fest about it. Yeah.
I'm saying false.
Okay, it is. David Lynch, he stated that he has zero interest in Dune 2021 and cited that his issues with the new movie have nothing to do with Villeneuve, but his own painful experience on the 1984 movie, which, you know, we've talked about. Plug for our old episode again.
I don't doubt.
So, favorite
for me as well, mate.
Yeah, it was painful for all of us. We had to watch it and talk about it, which is worse than just making it. Okay, so Patrick Stewart was considered for a cameo role as he was in David Lynch's Dune 1984 movie, but the character he was going to play ended up being omitted from the new adaptation.
False.
Correct. Sting was actually considered for a role in this. I fucking love Sting. I would have mentioned him before.
I honestly, God, would have nothing from that movie in this movie.
Nothing at all.
I think the way they did it was good.
They didn't mention that Sting character, the Fade Routh character, who's apparently a psychopath.
Well, they cut it.
They could have completely.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is interesting.
Good cut again.
Yes, good shout. Absolutely. One final one then. At one point, Peter Jackson expressed interest in directing a new film adaptation of Dune.
Yeah, that makes sense. True.
He did. He's been connected to everything.
Anything big.
Him and Guillermo
sci-fi.
del Toro,
Yeah.
they've both had their grubby mitts on them. So
Grubby mitts.
all right. Well, thank you for sticking with it, guys. That was our. It's not as rambling as the movie was, but it was kind of rambling overview of the movie.
It's always rambling, but this time I think we at least were passionate in our rambling.
We were passionate.
I quite liked this movie.
You were awake this week, which was good.
Oh, as it helps. And it's also later, which is weird.
We do have a bit of correspondence this week. Do you want to hear our couple of bits of correspondence? We chucked out on last week's show and we asked if anyone had any thoughts on the new Batman trailer.
The Batman.
We did. And friend of the show, Luke, was in contact and he said he feels like it's going to be less Bruce, more Batman, which he's really keen on. What do we think? Less Bruce, more Batman. I think if it is, that'd be great. We get a lot
By
of
that,
Bruce
do you
Wayne.
just mean you're not getting like the alter ego, like the fake character?
It's true, but at the same time, I kind of just want to see this Batman being a badass. Like,
I think they're like. I always enjoyed the juxtaposition, so I hope
true.
I hope we get some Bruce.
That's true. I'm with you.
Like
actually,
this is like because it also informs like the perspective of Batman, because it's like, what if I had to portray a rich, happy, like everything I'm not? What would I portray it as? Like, what would I do? Like it informs his not dual personality, but his true personality.
That's true. All right.
Oh.
I'm with that. I do like the idea of him being meta, but when you see Robert Robert Pattinson kicking the crap out of random dudes, I'm like, just give me more of that.
I'm sure there'll be plenty of it.
I'm happy to see a lot of that.
Yeah.
See him beating up a prosthetic up Colin Farrell. All right, why not?
The only reason it's believable that Robert Pattinson could beat him up is because the villain in this one seems to be a prosthetic fat penguin.
Yes, and Paul Dano, who's looks like a nerd.
It's a bit more believable that skinny old Robbie could do it.
I'm with you on that. I think it does need to build up a bit of the mythos of Bruce Wayne as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so 2 more pieces then. So friend of the show Steve writes in and says, we have a new listener. And he shared a picture of his new puppy.
Oh.
Monty, who is the newest friend of the show. I'm just going to share that with you now. Monty is the newest friend of the show.
What a cutie.
What a cutie pie. Thank you, friend of the show, Steve, for sending that in.
You know, it's hard to beat.
I mean, it absolutely is. He did also comment on our What If episode, but I think I'll just stick with with talking about Monty for the moment.
Yeah, puppy.
I'm down for him to be our new listener. He could be the puppy of the pod.
Pod puppy.
Love it. That's what we need. Final bit of correspondence then. Thank you all. We really do appreciate it. Friend of the show, Kim, new listener. We appreciate it. She just said on our discussion last week about which was hotter, Tom Hardy or Chris Pine. She sides with you. She says that Tom Hardy is the better of the two. Still no. She also asks, have we had a conversation about the art of trailers? And just discussing essentially, are there any... Sorry, let me...
How to make a good one?
How must... This is absolute nonsense.
Reading.
It's just not good English.
Words.
Essentially saying... Are there any trailers which essentially lied to us to make us watch a movie which was not good?
I mean, so many.
Have we talked about it?
So the art of like making a trailer for a bad movie.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much what I'm going to take from this.
I bet you that would be a good show we could do one on.
We could do that.
Because there's so many movies that are bad that probably had a good trailer.
So many. We'll put that on the list. We have an ever expanding list. Maybe we'll come back to that soon.
Thank you.
I like that.
Good idea.
Thank you, friend of the show, Kim. Well, if they want to find us, where can they find us?
They can find us at Podcast Assemble on Instagram.
They can.
Or
thepodcastassemble@gmail.com. That's where you can find us. Hit us up. If anyone emails anymore. Does people email?
Not many. It's a Slack, right? Slack these days.
Just
need a Slack handle.
Just text me. If you can find my number, it must be fate. All right.